Bad Ischl, summer, 1853. A house that holds its breath. Doors open quietly. Footsteps echo softly across the hallway. Voices remain low, almost cautious. No one speaks loudly. No one moves hastily, as if every movement would be too much. Everything seems prepared, as if this moment had already begun long ago. She sits by the window, her back straight, her hands resting calmly in her lap. Her gaze goes outside, not searching, rather waiting, as if she knows that something is about to happen that cannot be undone. The dress is carefully chosen, not conspicuous, not plain, just right. Every detail fits. She has been prepared, for weeks, perhaps years, for posture, for restraint, for the right moment to speak and to remain silent, not for a conversation, not for getting to know someone, for a decision. Outside waits a man who doesn't need to say much. A glance is enough, a moment that feels longer than any conversation. 3 days later, everything is over, not through a mistake, not through a wrong word, but because his gaze remains elsewhere. Her name is Helene in Bavaria. We remember a different story. Elizabeth of Austria-Hungary, the young empress, beautiful, restless, unconventional, a figure who fascinates to this day. But this story does not begin with her. It begins with another, with the one who was intended. Helene. The known version is simple. The emperor falls in love, spontaneously, unexpectedly, a decision made in the moment. But that is only the surface, because decisions like these rarely arise only in the moment. What we rarely ask, what exactly was decided in those 3 days? And why might this very loss have spared Helene from a life she could never have controlled? Possenhofen, a place without rigid rules, on Lake Starnberg, far from Vienna, far from protocol, a palace, but not a court, a family, but no ceremony. The lake lies calm. Days pass without fixed rhythm. Children move freely, come and go without explanation. No one asks, "Where were you?" No one demands, "Be there." Their mother, Ludovica, wants exactly this. No confinement, no constraints. Freedom. Her children should be able to breathe, not suffocate from expectations. Elizabeth disappears into the forest in the morning, often returns only in the evening, sometimes later. No one stops her. No one asks much. Freedom here is not a privilege, but everyday life. Helene stays closer. She is often seen in the house, at the table, by the window, always in the same places, with a book. She reads for long periods, page after page. Without hurry, without distraction, she learns languages, French, Italian, practices writing, works with a steady hand, needle and thread, fabrics that slowly take shape, movements that repeat. Calm, precise, controlled. While there is movement outside, something else develops within her. Constancy, a form of order that doesn't come from outside, but from within. While one tests boundaries, the other begins to structure herself, not conspicuously, not loudly, but permanently. It is not a contradiction, not yet, but it is a direction that will later be unchangeable. In Vienna, something else counts. Their freedom is not an advantage. Their reliability counts. The young emperor, Franz Joseph I, must marry, not sometime. Now, not from personal desire, but from dynastic necessity, a decision that will affect generations. His mother, Archduchess Sophie, plans carefully. She is known for this, precise, strategic, uncompromising, step by step. She examines possibilities, compares, eliminates. She is not looking for love, she is looking for stability, for someone who functions, for someone who understands Vienna. The choice falls on Helene. Everything speaks for her. She is prepared, she is controlled, she fits, no surprises, no unrest. Bad Ischl is not a spontaneous meeting, it is an arrangement, a moment aimed at a result. Conversations are prepared, encounters planned, even chance seems planned. The journey is carefully organized. Who sits where? Who speaks when? Nothing is left to chance. At the end of this journey, there should be an engagement. Helene knows her role, and she fulfills it, without resistance, without uncertainty, exactly as expected of her. What is certain? The decision turns out differently, but why remains open? Was it love? Or was it a moment when something unplanned works more powerfully than any preparation? Elizabeth is not prepared. She is 15 years old. Too young for an empress, too unpracticed for the court. She speaks more freely, moves less controlled, reacts spontaneously. Her answers arise in the moment, not from expectation, sometimes too direct, sometimes too honest. Where Helene seems secure, Elizabeth seems alive. And suddenly, something shifts. A conversation lasts longer than planned. A glance lingers. A smile is not immediately returned, but later. Small deviations that change a direction. At court, structure counts. But in this moment, impact counts. Helene fulfills all expectations, but she creates no disruption. Elizabeth does. And precisely this disruption draws attention. What doesn't fit stays in memory. What is perfect disappears faster. Later reports contradict each other. Some say he falls in love at first sight, already on the first evening. Others, his mother accepts the decision only after days, after long resistance. Still others, Elizabeth herself hesitates, doesn't immediately understand what is happening, wants to return to Possenhofen. What can be said? The situation slips from the plan, slowly, then suddenly. The emperor does not choose what was intended, but what touches him, and thus he chooses against stability. 3 days, that's all it takes. From security to emptiness, from expectation to silence. Helene does not step back, she is set aside. Without explanation, without visible break, no scene, no public moment, just a shift. Almost imperceptible, yet final. Elizabeth is presented as future empress. Helene remains, even later, even in Vienna, even at the wedding. She stands beside, observing, present, but no longer part of the decision, not at the center, not in conflict, simply there. And precisely in this lies something striking. No resistance, no public reaction, only adaptation. But outside this stage, something else begins, slowly, quietly. She changes her focus, turns to people who play no role, the sick, the needy, people without influence, people who will never see Vienna, in Possenhofen, in the surrounding villages. She visits them regularly, not as duty, but from choice, brings help, money, food, medicine, listens, remembers names, returns. There, something emerges that was not planned, a different form of significance, quieter, more personal. In Possenhofen, she receives a name, not officially, but in everyday life, the Angel of Possenhofen. Some years later, someone enters her life. Maximilian Anton von Thurn und Taxis, hereditary prince, heir to a significant noble house. He knows her story. He knows who she could have been, and decides anyway, not from duty, not from political necessity, but consciously. He sees her differently, not as a possibility, not as a missed opportunity, not as the shadow of another, but as a person, as Helene. And precisely that changes something. For the first time she is chosen, not designated, not planned, not expected, chosen. The decision does not fall in 3 days, but grows, slowly, more securely, without pressure from outside. The marriage brings no publicity, no grand stage, no expectations of an entire empire, no photographs in every newspaper, no comments about every dress. But it brings structure, a life of her own, family, 5 children, responsibility, spaces that belong to her, decisions she makes herself, a center not defined from outside. They live in Regensburg, lead the House of Thurn und Taxis, organize, administer, shape, receive guests, maintain traditions, create something new, a life without court protocol, but not without significance. Meanwhile, something else changes in Vienna. Elizabeth of Austria-Hungary comes under increasing pressure. The role becomes tighter. The court demands more than it gives. Every step is observed, every deviation commented upon. What initially seems like freedom loses its lightness and becomes a burden. Two life paths. One moves constantly, travels, flees, seeks distance, ever further from the place that holds her. The other stays, organizes, bears responsibility, remains tangible, not because she must, but because she can. Helene loses much, her husband, later her son, losses not publicly staged, no court, no grand stage, only silence, and responsibility that remains. And yet, something persists, an inner stability, something that doesn't come from outside, not a role she fulfills, but a life she leads, with fractures, with losses, but without the pressure to be someone else. The decision of Bad Ischl does not disappear. It continues to work, not visibly but perceptibly, in two completely different lives. She loses a crown and receives a life that belongs to her. Perhaps that is the real gain, not the role one loses, but the life that remains.